Hey guys, it's Ty. I'm back to talk about the PlanDisney Panelist search. As we know, Monday was the opening day for applications. They opened at noon Eastern Time, which happens to be my local time. However, I am not the kind of girl who submitted right at 12:05 or even within that first hour. I needed to take some time. I like to still get my application in early, but definitely not that early. I didn't get mine in until about 7 p.m. on Monday, and I'll share more about my process a little bit later. What I wanted to discuss first is this question that's been coming up. When I tell people that I applied for the PlanDisney panel, one of the questions I see is like, is it even worth it? That's a lot of work, and all you get in exchange is a vacation. So realistically, I don't think that PlanDisney is going to be worth it for many people, right? But many of us who apply to be on the panel, this is work that we're already doing for free. And I know for me, it's definitely something that I would still do for free, that I already do for free. When I was actually in labor and delivery for my youngest son, I was giving Disney tips to my nurse while I was about 8 centimeters dilated. So, yeah, this is something that I enjoy doing and would happily do it for free. But when you think about it, plenty of people do different things to try to save up for a Disney vacation. And some people do take on extra shifts at work. And some people do even get part time jobs to pay for vacations. And I don't think that this is anything different. Particularly for me, I already do the work of writing and writing about this much per week anyway. So yeah, it's worth it for me when you think about how much you're going to get. And just wanted to clear up something that I saw today in a group. Somebody said, oh, you do all this work and you only get 4 theme park tickets to Walt Disney World, which is not the case. You get a full paid vacation from Disney in exchange for the work that you do throughout the year. So that's a lot of money. If you know how much Disney can cost, that is a lot of money. And I don't mind that the compensation is in the form of a vacation, but getting that in exchange for your work and maybe taking a Disney vacation that you might not be able to afford otherwise, that's a great opportunity. On top of that, there are extras that the panelists receive. They're optional, but those trips for that are also paid. So it's a very fun experience. And I've been following so many different journeys to the PlanDisney panel and the way that they talk about the network and the new friends that they make. That's something that I want to experience as well. It's not just about, oh, well, what's the compensation for this? Certain things are going to be a great return on investment, even though they aren't monetary, even though, it's not the trip. It's just having that network, having other people who share similar interests as you, being able to just sit in your fandom of Disney as a Disney adult with other people who get it. Like everybody wants community. And from what I've seen and what I've read, the PlanDisney community is very special. So yes, I do want in. Yes, I do think that doing the work is worth it. I think the process is worth it. It's fun and exciting for me. So, as I said, the PlanDisney application opened on Monday, noon Eastern time. I got mine in about 7 p.m. And that's because I had this whole process. And the other part of it is because I was actually taking a flight that ended up getting delayed. So I didn't get a start on my application until maybe 4 or 5 o'clock. So, the first step that I like to do in my whole process is to just brainstorm freely. And yes, there is a 100-word limit on the application for each of your responses. But when I'm brainstorming, I'm not paying that restriction any mind. I'm just putting down exactly what comes to mind when I see this question. And I think about how I would share it with one of my friends. And I write everything down for every single question. Then I go back and edit it down so that it's clear and concise and still shows some of my personality. Getting the response down to 100 words or less is a beast and it takes time. Then you want to go back in and make sure that you are checking grammar and punctuation and, making sure that it flows and it makes sense, all of that. But here's the thing, the platform that they use for the application submissions, there's a learning curve. Okay. So first, like I said, they set the parameters that the responses need to be 100 words or less. On top of that, it times out due to inactivity. So if you are trying to think of your responses and type them directly into the portal and it times out, you have to start completely over and go back in and put your responses in. And it's a lot. It can really be a lot. It can kind of throw you off. So you'll see that many people who have been applying to PlanDisney for years suggest you opening a Google Doc or some other, place to write your responses so that you have them, you know what you want to say, and that if it does time out on you, you are not starting from scratch, because that would suck. So that's exactly what I do when I'm brainstorming. I put it in Google Docs and then I edit in Google Docs so that I always have that reference for myself. On top of that, you can't just copy and paste from the Google Doc into the portal. It will mess everything up. Your response will be turned into Wingdings, if you remember that font from like the 90s and the 2000s. Yeah, you don't want that to happen either. That happened to me one year, and needless to say, I did not make it to round two. So there are some things that you need to know, and I'm careful to take all of that into consideration when I'm doing my application. Now, some of my PlanDisney hopeful friends like to save their responses from year to year. I also do not do that. As I said in my previous video, I am not stressing about this process anymore. Everything is fresh. That being said, I feel like I picked the same question that I picked last year, if I remember correctly. It's just because that's what jumps out to me and that's what I'm most excited to talk about. So that's the question that I answered for a second year. Speaking of second year, even though I started applying to PlanDisney, I want to say maybe 2014, I feel like last year was my first real attempt. Prior to that, I did not have a good idea of what the whole PlanDisney panel was and what they would be looking for. Last year was the first year that I really applied from a place of understanding, like, yeah, at its core, this is a writing position. This is, even though it's not one of the official, Disney ambassador roles, you are kind of serving as a Disney ambassador. So your answers should still be mindful of that, even though you are representing yourself. So once I got that, I feel like last year was my first real attempt. Before I was just doing it to do it, and my first real understanding of what the role actually is and what would be needed of me. So I was able to apply from that place. And it was also my first year making it to round two. So now, knowing what I know and just having more experience in Disney parks, I think that this will probably be my best application to date. And that's not to say that I didn't know about Disney parks before. I definitely did, but I got to experience some different things this past year. I got to see some things that I wouldn't normally see, and it showed me a different side of Disney than what I typically take. So there were about 3 to 4 videos that I watched that really explained to me last year what the PlanDisney panelist role really entails. So the first one was Leandra Lelaine. She's a current panelist, and she had a video outlining her journey, and she even showed like bloopers from the first year she applied. She made the panel her second year of applying. In the first year video, she talked about some of the mistakes she made and then what she changed for the second year that she feels really helped her to land her spot on the panel. She even shared how they surprised her in the park after running a half marathon, and I thought that was so cool. But she also linked Brianna's video as well, and Brianna's a past panelist. And what I liked about Brianna's is that she was a first time applicant when she became a panelist. And, that's not going to be everyone's story. Clearly, it's not mine. But it was still interesting to see, all the steps she took to put her best self forward. And then she gave advice for how to make it onto the panel. She gave advice on how to get onto the panel and then how to be a great panelist should you make it onto the panel. So I really enjoyed her video. Then there's the PlanDisney podcast video about becoming a panelist. And Amira Martin, who is also a past panelist, was interviewing three, at the time, current panelists about their experiences with doing the process. And they all joined at different times. So they had a lot of different insights to share. And they also explained what happens when you're already, an alumnus of the PlanDisney panel, and if you want to serve again and what that whole process is like. There was a lot of information there. Very good video. And finally, I was on TikTok looking up, how to do your round two video and everything. And I saw a video from Corliss Datcher, past panelist, that was very informative. She had a video series actually on applying, and she gave tips as well. So there are a lot of resources. And if you're looking for some tips, they're all over the place. Definitely, if you haven't submitted your application for the PlanDisney panel yet, I highly suggest my process. Of course, you're going to answer the questions how you're going to answer them, but I still think that, brainstorming and letting the ideas flow freely is a good idea. And then going back in to edit it down to those 100 words or less. Definitely use a Google Doc to document all of your thoughts and ideas, because it's not going to save your answers for you. You will have to go back in if there's been inactivity. The steps are very easy. It's just opening up that Google Doc and brainstorming freely. Look at the questions, because you can download them from the PlanDisney search website and a nice PDF. So you can look at those questions, answer them freely in your Google Doc, then go back in, edit it down to the 100 words or less, and make sure that you're checking for punctuation, flow, clarity, all of that. And then go ahead and type it into the application portal. Do not copy and paste, or else your answer will be completely messed up. All right. Good luck to everybody else who is applying. Until next time, guys.